East African community massive development can't just let you with only a smile, but even leaving you wondering, with its tourism being one of the best in Africa, yielding around $2.6 billion for Tanzania. Kenya is getting around 1.7, with Uganda getting around 1.6. This clearly shows that Tanzania in tourism is by far the best performer, with also the Kenya and Uganda following. So Tanzania in tourism and the Ugandan tourism industry and even Kenya are close. So here the competition is good. Another competitive sector is the agricultural sector, where these countries, most especially the three giants, Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania, in coffee, tea and other foods, they exchange leadership of these crops production consumed internally and externally. The East African community is busy with its beautiful culture. This East African community is so busy when it comes to development with those mentioned sectors of tourism and agriculture, which is fantastic. Looking at the GDP, Kenya is far the best, with always around 80 to 100 billion US dollars. It's hard to do not talk about Kenya's GDP. Tanzania's GDP being around 60 billion US dollars. Tanzania has to do some good work to be close to Kenya. So in GDP, Kenya is far, with their oldest friend Uganda having around 37 to 40 billion US dollars. Uganda is also close, but has to work hard, with Rwanda having around 10.3 billion. This Rwanda also is doing well, with the newcomer Democratic Republic of Congo with around 49 to 50 billion US dollars. Congo, the newcomer is doing good, with another newcomer, South Sudan, with around 2.5 US dollars. The GDP is still somehow low, with Burundi coming in with around 2 to 3 billion US dollars, which means Kenya is the giant. Talking about climate in East African community, Uganda's climate conditions are far the best, with producing maize, which it generally exports to Kenya, with tons of maize going to that country, which needs this maize to get maize flour and consume meat with its popular ugali, which it consumes a lot in East Africa. So this Ugali Republic of Kenya needs quite a good amount of maize from Uganda, because Uganda grows maize, with also supplying it with milk, which it always get from Uganda. Kenya gets milk which is being disturbed by quality, because Kenya and Uganda and even other countries, there are misunderstandings over the quality of these produces. So that is there, but Uganda gets money from Kenya, and when it comes to maize production, Uganda is doing good. And here, because Tanzania produces for majorly home consumption, Uganda also grows bananas with their known name of matoke. So this Matoke Republic also produces banana. Kenya and Tanzania's tea production is far the best in East Africa and even in Africa at large, with Kenya getting roughly 1.2 billion US dollars, Uganda getting around 76 million US dollars, Tanzania getting around 32 million US dollars. So Kenya in tea production, which is needed a lot, Kenya is the best, and this is one of the things Kenya is getting revenue from. So Kenya has a secret with tea production. Talking about coffee production, Uganda is far the best in East Africa, producing around 6.65 million bags, which cost around 657 million US dollars. This contributes around 30% of the nation's economy. So Uganda's economy largely depends on coffee exports, so they get money from this and even some other foods. With also Tanzania's coffee, with around 40,000 metric tons yielding around 207 million US dollars. Where Kenya here, its climate conditions favor it to around 102 million US dollars. So the climate conditions of Kenya are not so good with coffee, and even Kenya are just replacing coffee with real estate buildings. So Kenya here is not performing well. Talking about electricity, Uganda has been supplying Kenya and Tanzania, even some parts of DR Congo and even South Sudan. So Uganda, when it comes to electricity production and supply, it is the king. But these countries like Kenya are also coming up with a number of projects for producing electricity, but Uganda's electricity has been there for these countries in the East African community. So Uganda has been supplying these busy cities of Nairobi, which need a lot of electricity. So Uganda is the king, and it is getting some good money of around 38.5 million US dollars. In East African community, ports have been so instrumental for the development of countries like Kenya, with its famous Mombasa port yielding for it around 200.5 billion Kenya shillings, and even Port Dar es Salaam around 230 billion Tanzanian shillings. So the ports have been so good for these two countries and still generating for them money. So the ports in East Africa are a good thing, especially for Tanzania and Kenya. These two countries get good from ports. Here is what you have been waiting for. The things East Africa is doing which are amazing the world. East Africa is putting in place, and it is hoping to put in place mega structures like Kenya, with projects like the Nairobi rail flyover, which is around 10 billion Kenya shillings. Really, Kenya, you are performing. We're seeing you are performing with also the Timor flyover, which is around 3 billion Kenya shillings. But is it over? No. The Nairobi Expressway, costing around 510 million US dollars. This mega structure is showing that Kenya in East Africa can't be overtaken like that. This mega project is so far good. With also Tanzania with its Patrick Mugugale flyover around 45 million. Tanzania is also coming in, we see. But Kenya's infrastructure, oh no way, is saying no way. But this flyover is also doing good for Tanzania, and even Zanzibar is also coming in. Uganda in East Africa is a country which is working so much to overtake Tanzania and Kenya with its famous Entebbe Express highway around 476 million US dollars. This expensive road in Africa is also doing good, not settling. Coming up also with the Kampala flyover project costing around 148 to 200 million US dollars. This other project is showing Uganda is in need of overtaking Tanzania and Kenya. Embarking on electricity generation, Kenya is saying no as it is putting in place its geothermal power plants to generate around 10,000 megawatts of geoelectric power, which is good. So Kenya with this project is far the most in East Africa and even in Africa. Kenya's geothermal power plants are amazing, with its wind power plant in Turkana, the largest wind power in Africa, around 300 megawatts of power. Kenya is doing good and wants to not to rely much on other countries like the Republic of Matoke, Uganda, which is generating more and more from the Karuma Dam to make sure that power is there to wait for the industrial infrastructures which may come in future. So Uganda's idle power will be much, and so the Ugali Republic of Kenya is saying no, I want also to be independent with all those mega structures of electricity generation. This means East Africa will light more at night, with neighbors Rwanda also putting eye on those structures of electricity generation. So the East African community is doing well, with Democratic Republic of Congo Grand Inga dams also struggling to come up to add on to the electricity the country is having. So this project, if it's successful with around 40,000 megawatts, it will be the largest in the world. What a benefit to Africa and even East African community. So the competition is high, and producing electricity in East African community is a game they play always. As Kenya is struggling to put in place its famous Konza Technopolis hub of around 14.5 US billion dollars, Tanzania is looking at it saying, you are relaxing, I'm coming up with a project. This Konza Technopolis is not moving on well, but it is moving on well. But Tanzania is also coming up with the Bagamoyo port expansion, which is the project being stopped and then resumed, with negotiations always coming in to make sure that the two parties, the China and the Tanzania, benefit. So with the dollars which are being put in this project, it is also good. Uganda is looking at those two countries, Kenya and Tanzania, saying, you are relaxing, I'm bringing in the Tlenga oil plant, which is also giving European Parliament sleepless nights. So this Tlenga is so good, and also coming up with the Chiramoto Corporation. So Uganda is like the Elon Musk of Africa. So here Uganda is saying, I'm going up. We don't know whether it can overtake Tanzania and Kenya with these mega projects it is putting in place. But also Kenya is saying, no, I'm here to stay with the railway projects it's putting in place. So East Africa, we don't know who is the next super power in economics. By far, these projects are giving East African community good move with the money they are putting in, and maybe they are expecting to generate more and more from the farming and even the infrastructure development they are in. So let's look at East Africa climbing Mount Renzol and even Mount Kilimanjaro to be at the level of those countries like the UAE, the world first class countries. So we would like to know from you, who is the next superpower in economics of the East African community. We'd like to know from you in the comments below.